My partner thought she could run our company without me until I showed her who was essential. There's a particular kind of betrayal that cuts deeper than infidelity. It's the betrayal of a partner, not in love but in ambition. The person you trusted with your dreams, your sleepless nights, your blood, sweat, and tears. The person who stood beside you when the bank account was empty and the doubt was overwhelming. I thought Vanessa and I were invincible. We'd built our marketing agency from nothing. Two women in a cramped apartment with nothing but a laptop and a shared vision. I thought we were sisters in every way that mattered. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. She stopped seeing me as a partner and started seeing me as an obstacle. And when she tried to cut me out of my own company, she learned a valuable lesson. You don't remove the foundation of a building and expect it to stand. My name is Alexandra, but everyone calls me Alex. I've always been the quiet one, the planner, the one who works behind the scenes while others take the spotlight. Growing up, I was the kid who organized the group projects, the one who made sure everything ran smoothly while everyone else got the credit. I didn't mind it. I found satisfaction in the process. In the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. It wasn't about recognition. It was about creation. Vanessa was the opposite. She was magnetic, charismatic, the kind of person who walked into a room and immediately commanded attention. We met in college during a marketing class that neither of us particularly enjoyed. She was loud, opinionated, and impossibly confident. I was reserved, analytical, and careful. On paper, we shouldn't have worked, but something clicked. She had the vision. I had the strategy. She had the charm. I had the follow-through. Together, we were unstoppable. After graduation, we decided to start our own agency. It was a crazy idea, the kind of thing that parents warn you against and professors dismiss as impractical. We had no money, no clients, no office, just a dream and a fierce determination to make it work. We rented a tiny apartment with a kitchen table that doubled as a desk. We worked 18-hour days, cold calling potential clients, building websites, designing logos. We ate instant noodles and celebrated our first client with a bottle of cheap champagne. The first few years were brutal. We lost clients, made mistakes, and nearly went bankrupt twice, but we kept going. I handled the creative side, the copywriting, the design, the strategy. Vanessa handled sales, networking, and client relationships. It was a perfect division of labor. She'd bring in the clients and I'd make them happy. We built a reputation for quality, for reliability, for the kind of personalized service that bigger agencies couldn't match. Slowly, steadily, we grew. We moved into a real office, hired a small team, and started turning a profit. I remember the day we signed our first six-figure contract. We sat in my office staring at the contract like it was a holy relic. Vanessa grabbed my hands and said, "We did it, Alex. We actually did it." I cried. She laughed. We hugged for a long time, both of us overwhelmed by the magnitude of what we'd accomplished. But success changes things. It changes people. I didn't see it at first, or maybe I didn't want to see it. The subtle shifts, the small betrayals that would eventually become impossible to ignore. It started with the meetings. Vanessa would schedule client calls without me, claiming it was more efficient. She'd make decisions about projects without consulting me, explaining that she didn't want to bother me with small details. She'd take credit for my ideas in front of clients, presenting them as her own. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself she was just excited, just trying to streamline things. But the nagging feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. The breaking point came during our annual review. We were sitting in Vanessa's office, going over the numbers. The agency was doing well, better than ever. Vanessa leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smile on her face. "Alex," she said, "I've been thinking. We've grown so much, and I think it's time we restructure." "Restructure how?" I asked, my stomach tightening. "I think it would be more efficient if I took over as CEO. You could step back, focus on the creative side. You've always been better at the details anyway." I stared at her, my mind reeling. "You want me to step back? We built this together. It's as much my company as yours." I know, she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "But let's be honest, Alex. You're not a leader. You're a doer. You're amazing at what you do, but you don't have the vision, the charisma, the presence. I do. It's just facts." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "You think I'm not a leader?" "I think you're a great co-founder," she said carefully. "But we've outgrown that model. The agency needs a strong, decisive leader. Someone who can take us to the next level." I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. Instead, I took a deep breath and said, "I need some time to think about this." "Of course," Vanessa said, her smile never wavering. "Take all the time you need." I left her office and walked to my own. I sat at my desk, staring at the walls I'd helped paint, the furniture I'd helped choose, the company I'd helped build. Everything I'd done, every late night, every missed family dinner, every sacrifice had been for this agency. And now Vanessa was trying to push me out, to relegate me to a secondary role while she took all the glory. Over the next few weeks, I started paying closer attention. I noticed the way Vanessa would schedule meetings with clients when I was out of the office, the way she'd forward emails to me after she'd already responded, making it impossible for me to weigh in, the way she'd praise her own work while downplaying mine. I noticed noticed the way our staff, the people we'd hired together, seemed to defer to her, to seek her approval before mine. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't let her erase me from my own company. But I also knew that confronting her directly would only make things worse. She'd twist it, make it seem like I was being emotional, irrational, difficult. I needed a different approach. I needed to show her and everyone else exactly who was essential. So I started documenting everything. Every email, every meeting, every decision. I kept meticulous records of my contributions, the clients I'd secured, the campaigns I'd designed, the strategies I'd implemented. I made copies of everything, digital and physical, and stored them in a safe place. I also started building relationships outside of Vanessa's orbit. I reached out to our key clients directly, not to undermine her, but to strengthen our connections. I made sure they knew my name, my face, my role. I showed them I was just as capable, just as invested as Vanessa, and I started planning. I knew Vanessa was ambitious, ruthless, and willing to do whatever it took to get ahead. I also knew she was careless. She took shortcuts, ignored details, and underestimated people. That was her weakness, and I was going to use it. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. Vanessa scheduled a meeting with our biggest client, a tech startup that accounted for 30% of our revenue. She didn't invite me. She didn't even tell me about it. I found out from a junior account manager who mentioned it in passing. I called the client directly. "I heard you're meeting with Vanessa tomorrow," I said. "I'd love to be there. I've been working on some new concepts for your campaign that I think you'll be excited about." The client, a woman named Jennifer, sounded surprised. "I thought Vanessa was handling everything." "She is," I said smoothly. "But I've been the lead on your creative strategy since day one. I thought it would be helpful to have me in the room." Jennifer agreed. The next day, I showed up at the meeting. Vanessa's face went pale when she saw me. "Alex," she said, her voice strained. "I didn't know you were coming." "Jennifer invited me," I said, smiling. "She wanted my input on the creative direction." The meeting went well. I presented my concepts, and Jennifer was thrilled. Vanessa tried to interject, to steer the conversation, but I was prepared. I had data, research, and results that backed up every recommendation. By the end of the meeting, Jennifer was sold on my ideas. She asked me to be the primary contact going forward. Vanessa was furious. She cornered me in the hallway after the meeting. "What the hell was that?" she hissed. "That was me doing my job," I said calmly. "The job you thought you could do without me? This isn't over," she said, her eyes blazing. "You don't know what you're dealing with." "Actually," I said, "I think I do." I walked away, my heart pounding. I'd drawn a line in the sand, and Vanessa had crossed it. The war for my company had officially begun. The first sign of real trouble came from our accountant, a meticulous woman named Margaret who'd worked with us for years. She called me late one night, her voice hesitant. "Alex, I need to tell you something. I've been going over the books, and there are some discrepancies I can't explain." "What kind of discrepancies?" I asked, my heart sinking. "Expenses that don't match receipts. Payments to vendors we don't use. Some irregularities in the client billing." "How long has this been going on?" "I'm not sure. Maybe 6 months, a year. The records are messy. Someone has been trying to hide it." I thanked Margaret and hung up. My mind was racing. I knew Vanessa was ambitious, but I never thought she'd steal from the company. I went to the office late that night when everyone was gone and started digging. I went through every file, every receipt, every invoice. It was tedious, exhausting work, but I was determined to find the truth. What I found was devastating. Vanessa had been funneling money to a shell company she'd created. She'd been inflating expenses, pocketing the difference. She'd been overcharging clients and keeping the extra. And she'd been using company funds to pay for personal expenses, vacations, luxury items, dinners out. It wasn't just theft. It was a complete betrayal of everything we'd built together. I sat in my office, staring at the evidence spread across my desk. I felt numb, hollow, like I'd been carved out from the inside. I'd trusted her. I'd loved her like a sister, and she'd been robbing me blind. The next day, I confronted her. I walked into her office, closed the door, and laid the evidence on her desk. "I know everything," I said quietly. Vanessa's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't lie to me," I said, my voice rising. "I have the receipts, the invoices, the bank statements. I know about the shell company. I know about the overbilling. I know about the personal expenses you've been stealing from us." She stared at me, her eyes wide, her mouth open. For a moment, I thought she was going to deny it. Then her expression shifted. The fear was replaced by something else. Contempt. "Fine," she said, her voice cold. "You caught me. But what are you going to do about it? Go to the police? Our clients? You think anyone will believe you? I'm the face of this company. I'm the one who brings in the business. If you try to destroy me, you'll destroy yourself." I stared at her, shocked by her audacity. "You're threatening me?" "I'm telling you the truth," she said. "You're nobody without me. You're the behind-the-scenes girl, the one who takes notes and makes coffee. You think you can run this company without me? You can't even run a meeting." I felt a surge of anger, hot and bright. "You're wrong," I said. "I've been running this company for years. I just let you take the credit." "But not anymore," she laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "What are you going to do, fire me? Good luck explaining that to the board. Good luck explaining that to our clients. They'll all walk and you'll be left with nothing." She was right about one thing. Firing her would be messy. It would divide the team, alienate our clients, and expose the company to a scandal we might not survive. But she was wrong about everything else. I wasn't nobody. I was the backbone of the agency, and I was about to prove it. Over the next few weeks, I worked quietly and methodically. I reached out to our top clients one by one and told them the truth. I didn't go into all the details, but I made it clear that I was taking over the day-to-day operations and that Vanessa's role would be changing. To my surprise, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Our clients trusted me. They'd always trusted me. They just didn't realize how much I was doing. I also reached out to our employees. I called a staff meeting and told them about the restructuring. I was honest about the challenges we were facing, but I was also optimistic about the future. I told them I valued their contributions and that I was committed to making the agency stronger than ever. Vanessa tried to fight back. She sent emails to clients trying to poach them. She spread rumors about me, claiming I was unstable, incompetent, vindictive. She tried to turn our employees against me, but her efforts backfired. The clients were loyal to me, not her. The employees had seen her behavior, her arrogance, her dishonesty. They chose to stay with me. The final blow came when I discovered she'd been stealing from our employees too. She'd been skimming their bonuses, withholding their commissions, and blaming it on budget cuts. When I told the team, they were furious. They rallied behind me, and together we pushed Vanessa out. She resigned in disgrace. I watched her pack her things and walk out the door, and I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, sadness, anger, and a quiet, fierce satisfaction. I'd won. I'd taken back my company, but the fight wasn't over. Vanessa had left a mess behind, a tangle of financial irregularities, broken client relationships, and employee mistrust. It would take months, maybe years, to clean it up, but I was ready. I had the skills, the determination, and the support to rebuild. The first few months after Vanessa's resignation were the hardest of my life. I was working around the clock, trying to salvage the company she'd nearly destroyed. The financial irregularities were worse than I'd initially thought. She'd been stealing for years, and the debt was staggering. I had to make tough decisions: layoffs, budget cuts, and renegotiating contracts with vendors. It was painful, but it was necessary. I also had to repair the damage to our reputation. Vanessa had been the face of the company, and her sudden departure had raised questions. Some clients were worried about stability, others were concerned about the quality of our work. I met with every single one of them, personally, and reassured them that the agency was in good hands. I showed them my portfolio, my track record, my vision for the future. Slowly, steadily, they started to trust me again. The employees were my biggest source of strength. They'd seen what Vanessa had done, and they were angry. But they were also committed to the company, to the work we did, to the culture we'd built. They rallied behind me, working extra hours, taking on new responsibilities, and supporting each other through the transition. I'd never felt so grateful or so humbled. One evening, I was in my office, reviewing a pile of contracts, when one of our junior account managers knocked on the door. Her name was Melissa, a bright young woman who'd joined the company fresh out of college. "Can I talk to you?" she asked hesitantly. "Of course," I said, gesturing for her to sit. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "When Vanessa was here, I felt invisible. She never listened to my ideas. She never gave me credit for my work. But you've been different. You've made me feel valued. You've given me opportunities to grow. I just wanted you to know that I appreciate it." I felt tears prick at my eyes. "That means a lot to me, Melissa." "Thank you." She smiled and left, and I sat there, overwhelmed by a wave of emotion. I'd spent so long feeling undervalued, overlooked, erased. But now I was surrounded by people who saw me, who believed in me, who were willing to follow me. It was the greatest gift I'd ever received. The months passed, and the company started to recover. We landed new clients, expanded our services, and hired some incredible new talent. The atmosphere in the office changed. It was lighter, more collaborative, more creative. People were excited to come to work. They felt like they were part of something meaningful. One day, I received an unexpected call from Vanessa. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Hello? Alex," she said, her voice subdued. I wanted to call and apologize. For everything, I was wrong. I was selfish. I hurt you, and I hurt the company, and I'm so sorry." I was silent for a moment, processing her words. "Thank you for saying that," I said finally. "I appreciate it. I also wanted to ask, is there any chance we could work together again? I've been struggling since I left. I started my own agency, but it's not the same. I miss what we had." I felt a surge of anger, followed by a deep, weary sadness. "Vanessa, I can't do that. What you did was unforgivable. You stole from me. You stole from our employees. You tried to destroy everything we built. I've moved on, and I think you should too," she sighed. "I understand. I wanted to try. Goodbye, Vanessa." I hung up and sat in silence for a long moment. I felt a strange sense of closure, Like I'd finally closed a chapter that had been haunting me for years. I'd forgiven her, not for her sake, but for my own. I'd let go of the anger and the hurt, and I'd moved on. A year later, the company was thriving. We'd expanded to a new office, hired more staff, and won several industry awards. I was proud of what we'd accomplished, but I was even prouder of the culture we'd built. It was inclusive, collaborative, and supportive. It was everything Vanessa's company had never been. I also started mentoring other women entrepreneurs, sharing my story and my lessons. I spoke at conferences, wrote articles, and sat on panels. I wanted to help other women avoid the mistakes I'd made, the trust I'd misplaced, the lessons I'd learned the hard way. One evening, I was at a networking event, chatting with a young woman who'd just started her own marketing agency. She was bright, ambitious, and full of questions. "How did you do it?" she asked. "How did you build such a successful company?" I thought about the journey, the ups and downs, the betrayals and triumphs. "I surrounded myself with good people," I said. "I trusted my instincts, and I never let anyone make me feel like I was less than I am." She nodded, her eyes shining with admiration. "You're an inspiration," she said. I smiled, touched by her words. "You can do it too. Just remember, you're stronger than you think, and you don't need anyone else to validate your worth." As I drove home that night, I thought about everything I'd been through. The betrayal, the heartbreak, the struggle. I'd lost a partner, but I'd found myself. I'd proven to Vanessa and to everyone else that I was essential. Not because I was the loudest or the most charismatic, but because I was the one who showed up, who did the work, who never gave up. I looked at the lights of the city, twinkling in the distance, and I felt a profound sense of peace. I'd built something beautiful, something lasting, something that was entirely my own. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that I would never let anyone take that away from me again.